So how do you keep running your bookkeeping business when life gets hard? When life throws you a curveball, because that's happened to me recently. But when you work for yourself, there's no one to really pick up the slack. So I'm gonna let you know how I'm able to deal with some struggles that come along. I have 6 steps. The first one is prioritize, and I'm gonna go into more detail about how I'm doing like in the middle of this video. But I did want to get right into the helpful tips if that's what you're here for. So of course, we know what prioritize means. You want to think about all the tasks that you need to do this month or this week and pick out the ones that are super essential. Some things that you're doing every month aren't going to be able to be put off. So unless you're facing some kind of like tax deadline or you need to report to a board or something, if it's like September and you aren't able to reconcile September books until like November, like usually that's going to be fine. Like your client is not going to suffer too much. It's probably more of an inconvenience and they just, they won't know their numbers for that month. So that's what you're doing in this prioritizing step. You're figuring out what's really important and what can be put off. And then also kind of think of like the cycle of bookkeeping. So usually you're busier around the beginning of the month when the bank statement comes in and you need to reconcile. I have a lot of videos on like workflow and what I do at different times each month. In the last few months, I did one on like monthly tasks that you might find helpful if you kind of want to feel that flow of like what I do each week of the month to prepare for my clients. But my point is different times of the month are going to have different priorities and have different busyness levels. Number 2 is communicate. So this one is so key. Your clients are humans. They are going to understand that, different things are going to come up in your life and you're not like a robot who is, just like bookkeeping all the time. So I would try to, as soon as you can, this is something I'm not the best at. Sometimes it takes me a while to realize that I'm like either having a hard time or falling behind or something. But if you do it as soon as possible, you're going to look a lot more responsible and on top of things. So maybe that's an email to your client and say, I just want to let you know I had a death in the family this week. I'm needing to take 2 weeks off for these reasons. And this is the date that I'm going to be able to complete your bookkeeping. And maybe you're able to communicate if they have like an emergency, this is what they should do. But clear and honest communication is always helpful. If you can, also try to under promise and over deliver. So if you think it's going to take you 2 weeks, maybe say it's going to take you a month, and then you give yourself a little bit of leeway as well. If you guys don't know me, my name is Morgan. My website is finepoints.biz. Give me a thumbs up if you're excited for the other 4 of these tips. And I can tell you a little bit about what I've been struggling with this year so far. I never know like how much you guys are interested in knowing about like my life, my personal life as a bookkeeper or me as a person versus, like tips and tricks about bookkeeping specifically. That's kind of like a balance I'm trying to find. Because when I watch people on YouTube, at some point you kind of have learned all that they have to teach and you just want to see like what they're doing in their daily lives and how their life is going. So anyways, let me know in the comments if you guys have any thoughts on that. If you like day in the life videos or what content you are most interested in watching. But kind of like our family struggle right now is my husband got injured. So on Christmas Day, he was playing pickleball with our family and he tore his Achilles tendon. And so it took us a little while to figure out like the severity of the injury, and then he had surgery this week. And so we didn't really realize how this would kind of like turn our lives like upside down a little bit. He just had a lot of appointments. He had a little bit of complications. He's not able to walk around and do like the normal chores that he does. So I'm trying to help him with things as well as like take on more chores for the family. It's like managing his pain levels and driving him around to different places. So it is a temporary setback. It's not life-threatening. Like we have an end in sight, which is helpful, but it has caused me to not be able to focus on my work, on my business as much. Then we had a few other things happening. We had a friend pass away, so we were trying to support the family, and then also that's like emotionally difficult to deal with. There's just the normal time like winter sickness. We had a lot of weather problems and a few like financial stressors that are having to do with my husband's business. So I just feel like in general, it's a harder season for me right now, right? And I'm sure you can understand whether that's like illness or mental health stuff or kids getting sick, you know how that goes. So it does take a bit to persevere through those struggles. And this leads me to my 3rd tip, which is to take care of yourself. Honestly, you're not really helpful to anyone if you spread yourself way too thin, if you're trying to do it all, but doing everything kind of poorly. I'm notorious for doing this when I have a cold. Like I just keep like going about my life when I have a cold. But then eventually I figured out if I'm just able to spend even like one day really resting and taking care of myself, I'm able to bounce back way quicker. Number 4 is say no to things. So maybe you don't need to go on that class field trip, or you don't need to do the annual weekend away that you always do. Don't feel guilty about ordering in a couple nights a week. And kind of like the sub point of this, saying no to things, also try to say yes to help if it's offered. So people offered to make our family dinner when my husband had surgery. And my first inclination was to say, no, we're fine, we don't need it. But then my husband was like, no, we should take them up on this offer. Like, people want to help you, and it really does take a little bit of the burden off of you. So say no to extra responsibilities and say yes to extra help. All right, and I think my last two, number 5 and 6, are the most practical and action-oriented. So number 5 is work when you can. So what I've been doing this week is I've been bringing my laptop to different doctor's offices and working in the waiting room while my husband is in an appointment. So when a hard time comes up, oftentimes your schedule is thrown off. You're just gonna have to find smaller pockets of time that you're able to work. So maybe you need to get up really early in the morning and work before your family's awake, or same with maybe you need to stay up at night. And of course, we're not gonna live our life like this. We don't want to, have a crazy schedule and be stressed all the time. But in a temporary time period, during a rough patch, you might have to put in those extra hours. And number 6 is get help. So I guess I already talked about this a little bit with like accepting help for like making dinners, but also think about your business. Is there anyone that can help you out with some business tasks? I do have a video about how to hire a virtual assistant for your bookkeeping business. So I go into a lot of detail about that. You can like outsource a few bookkeeping tasks, or you can outsource, your communication tasks. And a virtual assistant does not have to be full-time. Maybe you feel like you can't afford it. You can just have someone answer emails for you like 2 hours a week, and that is probably going to be able to fit into your budget as a business owner. So especially if you're feeling like you're gonna need help a little bit longer term, it's definitely worth it to find someone and hire them and train them. So again, check out that video with the specifics of that. If it's easier, you could also get help with tasks that you're doing that are stopping you from working on your business. So for example, a house cleaner. So if it's easier for you to hire a house cleaner, maybe that saves you 2 hours a week that you're able to work. Same with childcare. If you have little kids, hire a babysitter and then get some work done. I hope for you that your life is not going through a hard patch right now and that it's smooth sailing, but inevitably at some time, this is gonna happen to all of us. So I wish you guys the best, and I will talk to you again next week. Take care.